Habakkuk?
Habakkuk.
Yeah, was he from Kimmerer?
Yeah, he was from Kemmerer. Yeah. Habakkuk. A trying name in trying times. It was a couple of weeks ago. I was with a neighbor friend of mine, and we were in Salt Lake. We'd gone to a Salt Lake Bees game. A lot of fun. And after the game, to kind of prepare for our drive home, we stopped at the Iceberg. It's famous for its milkshakes, and they're wonderful. They're big and thick. And we were just sitting there enjoying them, and all of a sudden, to our right, the table next over us, there's this 2-year-old, 3-year-old little child pitching a fit on top of the table, screaming at the top of his lungs. And it was unnerving. And it was, oh my gosh, what are these parents doing? And I looked over, and the young father was sort of, I guess in his mind he was disciplining the child, but he was just talking to him, son, you don't need to act like that, or son, you need to be quiet. And the kid just kept going on and on and on. And he knew that the discipline from his dad wasn't going to, his dad wasn't going to do anything, so he just kept pitching a fit. But isn't it nice to know that God isn't like that? He loves us so much that he knows in his perfect way how to discipline us when we need it. And so that's why we're looking at Habakkuk. So sometimes life throws you a curveball. Things don't go like we expect, and uncertainty in life can keep us up at night and leave us unnerved. In the second lesson from Habakkuk, we learn how God wants us to respond in the midst of uncertainty. You may remember from last lesson that Habakkuk is a series of complaints from the prophet and responses by God. Habakkuk learned that his people were going to be judged by God through the Babylonians, a cruel, ungodly people. This led to Habakkuk's second complaint. And the second complaint is, O Lord our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins, but you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? Habakkuk expected God to judge the people, but not like this. He probably expected God to bring a judgment, maybe a plague or something like that had happened in the past. But this judgment was much bigger. God was going to judge Judah with a people more corrupt than they were. This would be like God allowing terrorists to take over parts of Europe or North America as judgment against those societies. From our viewpoint, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So Habakkuk's next move was very wise. He made his complaint against God, and then he waited for God to answer. Habakkuk 2:1. He didn't understand God's plans, and he told God about his frustration. But Habakkuk didn't abandon God. He waited for God to respond. This is a good pattern for us. It's fine to bring your questions and even complaints to God, but we need to wait for him to answer. Just like before, God answered Habakkuk's complaint. Habakkuk 2:3. This vision is for a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. God's answer to Habakkuk is so packed with truth that we will deal with it in more detail in the next lesson next week. For now, we need to understand that in life, God's plans are better than our plans. God's will is better than our will because he sees the big picture of history. This is good news because God always works for your good. Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. God has things under control, but we have to decide how we are going to respond to him. God shows us that there are two ways to respond to his plans. In Habakkuk 2:4, it says, look at the proud. They trust in themselves, and their lives are crooked, but the righteous will live by their faithfulness to God. So our natural response is to trust in ourselves. We get thrown off by uncertainty because many of us think that we have life under control. We don't think bad things will happen to us because we have too high a view of ourselves. The people of Judah certainly didn't think that God was going to bring judgment upon them. They had too much pride for that. And pride makes us think that our own accomplishments, our abilities, our wealth will provide security through all of life's difficulties. When bad things do happen, we tend to panic because we realize we aren't in control. This isn't the attitude God wants for us. The right response is to trust in God. In Habakkuk 2:4, the proud are contrasted with the righteous. The righteous are those who have been made right with God, and the response to uncertainty is to trust in him. In Habakkuk, God is testing the faith of his people. Would they trust in God after this message of judgment? Would they follow God when life goes sideways? we have to face the last question too. The Bible teaches us that God wants us to trust in Him. We need to trust God with our eternity and with everyday life. Every difficulty and setback in life is an opportunity to trust God and follow Him. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its perfect result, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Or in Proverbs we read that, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and He will make your path straight. Let's remember to trust in the Lord.